All right, welcome back. Welcome back to Math is Easy Step by Step. So this is part 2 in understanding linear equations and graphing an equation on a coordinate plane. That's with x-axis and y-axis. So I want to go over the coordinate plane as best as I can. So we're going to be understanding the coordinate grid. Here, we always, when you're graphing, you're given an ordered pair, right? You are given an ordered pair. And you want to start at the origin here, right in those crosshairs. Let me raise this up a little bit. Okay. Right at the crosshairs of the y and the x-axis is 0, 0. 0 for x and 0 for y. That's why I'm showing you this here. 0 for x and 0 for y. This is where you always start. Okay. And you don't necessarily plot a point at this position, but this is where you're going to follow the x and then the y coordinate in an ordered pair in order to plot a point. So you always start at the origin. For example, I'm going to go over this later, but you can see here there's an x value of positive 1 and an a y value of a positive 1. And we're going to plot this point at 1 for x, 1 for y. I'm going to do that a little bit later, but right now I just want to show you why you start at the origin. You go 1 to the right, which is positive x, 1 positive x value. And then you go upward positive 1 for the y. And for that ordered pair, we will plot a point. Right? That's just an example. So when you're plotting points, you always start at the origin 0, 0. And then follow the x first, then the y coordinate values. Okay, so I like to go over the x-axis, the y-axis, and the coordinate quadrants, right? So the y-axis, starting at the origin 0, 0, going up, are positive values. I've labeled these values positive 1, positive 2, positive 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, on and on for infinity. Forever and ever and ever they go. I've labeled this my y-axis y positive. And starting at the origin, going down the y-axis are negative values. Negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, negative 5, and so on and so forth. I've labeled this y-axis y negative values. Going back to the origin, 0 for x and 0 for y. I'm going to show you that to you again. Going to the right on the x-axis are positive values. As you can see here, I labeled that. Going back to the origin, going to the left are your negative values, x negative, along the x-axis. So you can see these negative values, negative 1 through 7 on the left side of the x-axis. Going back to the origin, 0, 0. On the right side, positive 1 through positive 7, the positive side of the x-axis. And when you're plotting points, you always start here at the origin, which is 0 for x, 0 for y. It's the crosshairs. And then you follow the ordered pair. It could be 4 positive for x, 3 negative for y, and you're going to plot your point somewhere right around here for that particular coordinate point. I just made that up. All right, so let's go over the quadrants. Now, we have from the origin to the right on the x-axis, from the origin rising above on the y-axis, we have over here to the right quadrant 1. And that will be where your x values will be positive and your y values would be positive. And typically this is considered a positive quadrant. Starting here at the origin, going up the y-axis, you have positive values. Going to the left on the x-axis, you have negative values. So in quadrant 2, our x's will be negative and our y values will be positive. Starting at the origin again, going to the left on the x-axis, we have negative values. Going down the y-axis, we have negative values. So our quadrant number 3, Roman numeral 3, our x values will be negative and our y values will also be negative. So this is considered a negative quadrant. And so starting back at the origin, going to the right along the x-axis, we have values 1 through 7 positive. Going down, we have the negative values. So quadrant 4, Roman numeral 4, x values are positive, the y values are negative in this particular quadrant. So now we're just getting to know and understand the graph. And anytime you graph, you're going to be given what's called ordered pairs, right? That's a value for x and a value for y. And we know the ordered pair, 0 for x, 0 for y, is the origin, or right at those crosshairs I showed you earlier. Okay. Another example of an ordered pair is x is positive 1, y is positive 1. I showed you how to plot that particular point a little bit earlier, although I did not plot the point by creating a decimal or a dot. Another example of an ordered pair is x is positive 2, y is positive 2. And I could show you that here. We're going 2 positive in the x direction, always starting at the origin. So 2 positive on the x direction. We go up 2 positive on the y. And right here, I would plot my point at 2x and 2y. So that's the third example. Now you've seen all three of these ordered pairs and where they lie on the graph. So let's go over quickly. Given a coordinate point of where individual x and y creates a point on the graph. That is essentially a generic definition of your ordered pairs, right? It's a point on the graph where you follow x and y. At that point, you plot or you draw a little dot, decimal point in order to plot that point. It takes a minimum of 2 ordered pairs plotted on the graph, right, in order to graph a linear equation or a straight line, right? Straight lines are just linear equations, is another way of saying a straight line. So it takes a minimum of 2 ordered pairs to create 2 points on a graph to graph a straight line or to graph a linear equation. Now, typically, as shown right here, I like to have a minimum of 3. Just in case I make a mistake, I can see it, right? On a straight line, you have a straight line similar to what you see here in my example to the origin, right? That's not a plotted straight line, but on a straight line, you can see how it's straight. And the reason I use 3 ordered pairs is if I have a plot point here on the line, a plot point over here on, and then a plot point here on the line, I can see, well, this third one is wrong. It gives me an opportunity to correct any mistakes. So again, the origin is at 0, 0. We always start here to plot our points. We go either right or left on the x-axis first, and then we go up or down on the y-axis in order to plot those points. I'll be going over graphing in a much more detail a little bit further on in these particular type of videos, but I wanted to take my time. I wanted to go slowly. If you need to fast forward or rewind these videos, please do so at your leisure. Thank you for joining me. Math is easy. Take it step by step. I will continue with a video number 3 and possibly 4 to go over how to find the y-intercept and the x-intercept given an equation in order to answer that first type of test question. Math is easy. Take it step by step. Thank you for joining me.